That was former Miracle Met Ron Swoboda, infamous and famous for making The Catch, not infamous. Well, he is very knowledgeable about baseball and always wonderful to talk to Ron. And now we're going to change gears completely. What other show can say but Stribling's New York? We're going from Ron Swoboda to Morgan Weed, who is an actress, singer, dancer, dog lover, and yogi. And she is currently featured in American Psycho on Broadway in the role of Courtney Lawrence. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rob. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us about the show. It was an iconic book and in the 80s, and then really launched Christian Bale's career as a movie. And a lot of people were floored by the fact that it's on Broadway now, and it's getting really great reviews, and people seem to love it.
Absolutely. I think people are really excited about the show. It certainly has this cult following of people who love the book and have loved it for 25 years, and then people who love the movie. But I think what's even more exciting is people who come and know nothing about this story, and they just have a question in their mind about how will you make American Psycho into a musical? And it is exciting. It's a wild piece set in 1989, and we go for it with our costumes and our hair, and the production design is beautiful. But this story about what it's like to live in America in the 80s, in New York City, when money is at the center of everything that we want.
I was up and around then. Unfortunately, I didn't have any money. No, I never seemed to. I remember the time well, and they were pretty crazy, heady times. And Tom Wolfe dubbed the phrase "masters of the universe," and Wall Streeters did walk around obsessed with their business cards and suspenders and suits and Porsches and illicit drugs and things like that. Oh, so
no,
go
ahead.
No, you go.
No, it's true. I mean, what's wonderful about this show is it really asks you. Duncan Sheik, our composer, is such a poet, and Roberto Segura-Costa, he's written this fabulous book for us, and it has so many different layers. I mean, on the front, when you really see it, you think, oh, I'm seeing this style piece. There are these gorgeous numbers of people dancing in angles and just all about fashion and style. But really, on the inside, I think it goes a lot deeper. It's a lot of people wondering why they're here, what their purpose is, what they wake up in the morning to do. And these people in this particular story fill their day with business cards and who's got the greatest suit and who has the best reservation at dinner. But they're actually these incredibly smart, capable people who have somehow gotten lost in the facade that was New York City at that time, and maybe still is. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. The book was a very powerful social commentary, and even a musical can be one. While they're still singing and dancing, and I'm looking at your resume. You have an amazing curriculum vitae here. So how did you get all these credits? You're so young.
You're so kind. God. Well, I went to Northwestern, which gave me a great start. I had incredible teachers, but I also ended up booking my first job out of Northwestern to work with Michael Greif, the amazing Broadway director, and he cast me in Next to Normal. So I actually worked with Jen Damiano and Alice Ripley. That's how I got my equity card my first week in New York City. And I just have been lucky to be surrounded by amazing artists. I'm really deeply passionate about new works, about pushing forward our form and breaking the mold of what we think musicals are. And I think this one does. The most important thing being, I think it's funny. It's a funny show. I love to do comedy. I think that I've tried to build my career on walking that line between the dark and the light of, which I think is so important in theater. But I don't know, luck, it's hard work, a lot of auditioning. I've had a lot of great teachers, agents, directors, people who have helped me on my way. But
I believe it's attributed to John Barrymore. It's almost an apocryphal statement, but supposedly on his deathbed he said, "Dying is easy, comedy is hard."
Comedy's so hard.
But so speaking of difficult, you ran a marathon in 3 hours and 47 minutes. Plus you study yoga and
I do. I'm a hatha yoga teacher, and I ran the Chicago Marathon with my brother, and I beat him by 45 minutes, which I never let him live down. He was the high school quarterback, and I was, I'm the easygoing yoga teacher, and I destroyed him in that race. So it was a
Is he
great pleasure
still?
in my life.
You've left him somewhere in a corner crying still?
Somewhere at mile 16, I think he was lost. But he did cross the finish line with a bratwurst and a shot of vodka in his hand. So he may have defeated me, in terms of I was collapsed with a banana.
Where are you from originally?
I grew up mostly in Princeton, New Jersey.
I know it well.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
My mom is still close to there in Ringo. She lives on a horse farm.
I know where Ringo, New York is. My parents bought antiques there. My father did a little teaching at Princeton.
How funny. Oh, my
after
God.
he retired.
It's a gorgeous part of the nation, and I loved it. And I have a twin sister as well. We all grew up there. And she now lives in North Carolina and is a teacher, so has walked very different
When
paths.
I was growing up, and in the olden days, in the 60s, Ringo was a big place that people used to go because it was kind of like an artist community, and you could buy cool things and interesting art and sculptures. And my parents used to go and say we were going to Ringo, and we thought we were going to meet Ringo, star of the Beatles. I was not a great sophisticate as a young man, but it was we were disappointed when we got to Ringo, New Jersey. The Beatles weren't there. So
it's a fabulous antiques and artists, and it's a great place to grow up lots of art, and that made me want to be an artist.
Well, we have had a number of Broadway people on here, and I'm a big fan of the theater, and I've actually had one of my works once performed at Lincoln Center. It was merely a staged reading, but it was still pretty cool to have done. So it was something chosen by the Writers Guild. It was a nice thing to do, and I have been going to plays since the early 60s, and I've seen many different shows on Broadway, and just saw The Crucible the other night. I just think it's interesting also to see when different actors replace somebody in a role and how the play can change, and the theater is really, really fascinating to me.
I early in my career, I understudied, and you learn so much doing that. It's the hardest job in the world. It's also, it can be, for some people, incredibly thankless. I always found that that I felt like a part of my brain was working and staving off future, memory loss, because you have to learn so much just by watching. You have to just compute in a different way than when you're an actor and when you're on stage walking through your parts. You have to learn visually. But I think what it teaches you is humility, and also how much every little piece matters. It's such a collaborative art form. If your experience at Lincoln Center with anything, a stage reading doesn't happen until you have to get 10 people on board. Someone's got to there's just a million moving parts, from who puts the chairs on the stage to do that reading to who has the lights and the microphones, and I love that part of it. I love that there's this entire team collaborating. You may only see 15 or 16 people on the stage, but there's 100 of them.
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a segment where I have a director and some actors on explaining how a Broadway show is mounted, because I've written a lot for television back when I was younger, when they. Now at age 60, you're not hireable anymore. But it was a great experience. I know. I also produced a lot of shows, but it was like doing a one-act play every week. But it's you mount it rapidly, and you're doing a table reading, and then boom, it's blocked, and boom, boom, boom. It's in a week you've got a whole thing put together. But it's really it's 22 minutes if you're doing a half-hour show, as opposed to a 2.5 or 3 hour play where you can't stop and somebody can pick up if there's been an error or anything. And so it's a fascinating process to me.
It is. It's a unique art. It's an odd task if you think about it, to recreate something each night. That it's interesting walking into the theater, because nothing exists until we're all there. There's no one can press play on a screen and give you the story. It requires all people to be in the room. Building a show takes, I think, Next to Normal took a decade. This spectacular piece that ended up going on to win the Pulitzer and the Tony and these things. And, something like American Psycho has been in the works for years. They took it to London first, a not-for-profit theater. They had a Kickstarter. They were raising money. It was just a passion project. Based on this cult, of course, there's this cult following for Bret Easton Ellis's work, but it takes a lot. And I think what people would be most surprised with is how much heart this story has. You build something like this, people think they're in for some terrible, like, suspenseful horror show, and I think what you're actually in for is a very human story. I mean, people are scary.
Yes, well, look, Sweeney Todd, he was killing people and they're making them into meat pies.
Absolutely.
So American Psycho is a little bit.
This is the madness of the mind in
yes.
a way. He talks about solipsism, which I'm fascinated with, learning from this show. This idea that nothing else exists outside yourself, or nothing's verifiable. And so, does anything we do matter? Will anyone know? I mean, isn't that just such a human question? Like, do I matter? If I go out into the day today, will it mean anything? Will anyone?
I hope so. I like solipsism. That we don't get people that have good vocabularies on the show, and I notice also on the resume, heliotrope.
Oh, heliotrope, looking for the sun. That's my part of my yogic teaching, is this idea that you have to reach out for the light, and follow it. And go where it goes. So it sounds a little esoteric and bizarre, but
I like esoteric and bizarre. Well, it was really great having you on the show. I recommend that everybody go see American Psycho. Tell us what theater to go to and what website you're on and so on and so forth.
Absolutely, Rob. Thank you. What a pleasure. Go to the theater is on West 45th Street on Broadway, the Gerald Schoenfeld, and you can go to AmericanPsychoTheMusical.com to buy your tickets and come out, see something that will blow your mind.
Go to Morgan. What's your website is morganweed.com.
That's me.
And you have an amazing set of credits, and I hope that everybody, all our hundreds of thousands of listeners, go to see the show.
I hope so, too. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful
Good luck with your career.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye.